My family cast me out as the worthless dropout. Now I'm the millionaire who rose from nothing, crushed their legal empire, and left my dad's firm in ruins. I, a 28-year-old male, just completely destroyed my entire family's legal careers because they spent years making me feel like garbage. If you're going to mock your kid for dropping out of law school, maybe don't. Do it while he's mopping your office and learning all your industry secrets. Here's how I bought my dad's law firm just to turn it into a yoga studio. Ever been the complete failure in a family of overachievers? That was me, the youngest of 5 kids in a family where lawyers weren't just respected, they were the only acceptable career choice. My dad ran his own law firm downtown. It wasn't huge, maybe 40 lawyers, but to hear him talk, you'd think he was running the Supreme Court. He started from nothing in the 1980s, built it up through pure grind, never took vacations, and lived at the office. Mom was a federal judge, appointed about 10 years ago. She ran a tight courtroom. At home, though, everything was about appearances, about keeping up the family reputation. God forbid the neighbors find out one of her kids wasn't destined for law school. She had this way of making you feel small with just a look, like she'd personally offended the entire concept of justice by existing. My siblings all drank the Kool-Aid. James, the oldest, went to Harvard Law. He's a smart dude, I'll give him that. Now he does corporate mergers and acts like he's personally responsible for the economy. He married a lawyer, too, because apparently that's the only acceptable dating pool. Patricia went to Yale. Harvard wasn't fancy enough. She does international trade law, flies to Asia twice a month, and can't have a conversation without mentioning her global clients or how she just got back from Hong Kong. She's got this annoying habit of throwing random foreign phrases into conversation like, we're all supposed to be impressed she knows how to say thank you in Mandarin. Then there's Michael, who chose Stanford, became a prosecutor, handles major cases, and never shuts up about his conviction rate. He thinks he's Batman but with a law degree. Ellen went to Columbia, does intellectual property, always name-dropping tech companies. She works with and makes good money but acts like she invented copyright law. She's the type who corrects people's grammar in casual conversation and thinks it makes her look smart instead of insufferable. Then there's me, the disappointment, the one who couldn't make it in law school, the family's favorite cautionary tale. They had my whole life mapped out before I could even spell litigation. Pre-law degree, ace the LSAT, prestigious law school, then joined Dad's firm. Rinse and repeat the family formula. They literally had my career path written on a timeline in Dad's study. I found it once when I was 16. It had my projected law school graduation date, when I'd make partner, and even picked out which floor my office would be on. I actually tried. I got through 2 years of pre-law before accepting I'd rather eat glass than spend my life reading contracts. Every case study felt like punishment. Constitutional law made me want to burn the Constitution. Torts class was basically legalized torture. The thought of doing this for 40 years made me physically sick. My breaking point came during a mock trial. Halfway through my opening statement, I stopped, looked at the professor, looked at my classmates, all taking it so seriously, and realized I couldn't do this anymore. These people were excited about defending environmental destruction. I walked out and never went back. So I dropped out, and man, they didn't take that well. The family meeting was exactly what you'd expect. Sunday dinner. Everyone gathered around Mom's dining table. The good china was out, which should have been my first warning. That Wedgwood only came out for major announcements and formal occasions. Dad sat at the head of the table like he was about to sentence me to death row. Which honestly wouldn't have been much worse than what he actually said. You have 2 choices, he said, not even pretending to be understanding. Go back to school, or you're on your own. I tried explaining, Dad, I'm miserable. I don't want to be a lawyer. Maybe I could try computer science. Mom cut in with that dismissive tone she used for defendants she'd already decided were guilty. We're not paying for you to waste time on computers. This family has standards. The Morrison name means something in legal circles. My siblings jumped in like sharks smelling blood. James talked about wasting potential and how I was embarrassing the family legacy, making some comparison to a Fortune 500 company he was advising about deadweight employees. You know what we tell companies to do with underperforming assets? Cut them loose, he said. Patricia brought up family reputation and how her international clients might think less of her if they knew her brother was a dropout. She actually used the phrase reputational risk, saying something about how in Asian cultures, family shame affects business relationships. Ah, yes. Wouldn't want Hong Kong to find out your little brother eats cup noodles for dinner. What a tragedy. Michael accused me of taking the easy way out and gave this whole speech about how winners push through adversity. When the going gets tough, the tough get going. The weak quit, he said, coming from a guy who'd never experienced real adversity in his life. When I said I'd figure things out myself, Dad spelled out exactly what. That meant no tuition money, no rent help, no car insurance, nothing. Those student loans I already had, all mine now. The family credit card was canceled before I left the table. If you want to throw away your future, he said, you'll do it on your own dime. This family doesn't subsidize failure. And just like that, they cut me off. That same week, they canceled my cards and dropped me from the phone plan. I had about $50 to my name and $30,000 in debt. My checking account had $47.83. I remember staring at that number like it was a countdown to disaster. I lost my apartment within a month. The landlord wasn't interested in payment plans or sob stories. My car got repossessed 2 weeks later. Turns out Dad had been making those payments. My girlfriend bailed when she realized I was broke. Her exact words, "I'm not dating a loser who can't even finish college. I have standards." Real supportive bunch all around. The only job I could land was as a night janitor at a law firm, $12 an hour to clean offices. The irony practically wrote itself. First night on the job, I'm mopping the conference room, and there's a photo on the wall, some bar association dinner. My dad's in it, shaking hands with the managing partner. I'm literally cleaning his colleagues' toilets. At family functions, I became the cautionary tale. 5 kids, 4 successes was Dad's favorite line, like I was some kind of factory defect. They'd introduce me last at social events, always with that pause. And this is Sean. He's finding himself. The thing is, working nights cleaning law offices was like getting a PhD in legal inefficiency. These lawyers would walk past me like I was furniture, talking about cases while I emptied their trash. The first few weeks I tried being invisible. Head down, earbuds in, just another part of the office equipment. But then I started listening. The first firm I worked at was mid-sized, maybe 60 lawyers, total slobs. Food containers everywhere, coffee stains on everything. Confidential documents just lying around like confetti, half-eaten sandwiches in desk drawers, pizza boxes stacked in conference rooms, coffee cups growing their own ecosystems. These were supposed to be the elite professionals my family worshipped. I'd find confidential documents in recycling bins, merger agreements, settlement negotiations, internal memos about strategy. These hotshots making 6 figures couldn't even be bothered to use the shredder. Client lists left on printers, passwords written on post-it notes stuck to monitors, laptops left unlocked with sensitive files open. The sloppiness was staggering. That's when I started noticing how much everything sucked. These lawyers would stay till midnight just to find one case. They'd print out thousands of pages and highlight like 10 lines. Partners were charging crazy money for the same boring work over and over. I watched one associate spend 3 hours looking for something I found on Google in 5 minutes. Another guy pulled an all-nighter comparing 2 contracts that were basically the same document. The waste was insane. 3 lawyers sitting on a call just listening, all billing by the hour, charging clients for research that was literally just typing words into a search bar, associates copy-pasting stuff from old contracts into new ones like it was 1995. Everything took forever, cost a fortune, and most of it was pointless busy work. One day I found an old computer in the trash during my 3rd week. Some partner upgraded and just tossed their old desktop. The thing still worked, it just needed a new hard drive. I dragged it down to the dumpster area, then came back after my shift to grab it. Took it home, fixed it up, and started teaching myself to code during breaks. Python first, then JavaScript, then deeper stuff. While they were billing hundreds per hour upstairs, I was learning actual useful skills in my roach-infested studio apartment. My coding setup was ghetto as hell. A laptop balanced on a cardboard box because I couldn't afford a desk, an old office chair. I found on bulk trash day stealing Wi-Fi from the coffee shop next door because internet was a luxury I couldn't afford. I learned from YouTube tutorials and pirated textbooks. But every night after work, I'd code until my eyes burned. Sometimes I'd fall asleep at my makeshift desk, wake up with keyboard marks on my face, shower, and head straight back to work. The learning curve was brutal. The first month was just trying to understand basic syntax. I spent a week debugging a calculator program that kept crashing because I forgot a semicolon. But unlike law school, this actually clicked. Code either worked or it didn't. No arguing about interpretations or precedents, just pure logic. During that time, family dinners became monthly torture sessions. They'd invite me over probably to feel better about cutting me off, or maybe just to have fresh material for their jokes. "How's the janitorial industry?" Patricia would ask, voice dripping with fake concern. wearing some designer outfit that cost more than my monthly rent, picking at her food like it wasn't good enough. Still cleaning up after real professionals? James would add, because apparently being cruel was genetic. He'd always make sure to mention whatever big deal he was working on just to twist the knife. Actually just closed a $100 million acquisition. But hey, I'm sure mopping is fulfilling too, he'd say. Dad never missed a chance. Maybe being around successful lawyers will motivate you to go back to school. Nothing like seeing what you're missing out on. When they found out I was learning programming, it got worse. Our janitor thinks he's going to be the next Steve Jobs, Dad announced at Thanksgiving. Can't finish college, but somehow he's going to revolutionize technology while scrubbing toilets. Maybe he'll invent an app for urinal cakes. The whole extended family was there to witness my humiliation. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all successful professionals, all laughing at the family failure trying to code. Mom sighed like I joined a cult. You could have been in a courtroom. Instead, you're playing with computers between toilet cleanings. Maybe he can build an app for mop management, Ellen suggested, getting laughs from everyone. I hear there's good money in janitor startups, Michael added. Janitor tech has a nice ring to it. Through all this, I kept quiet and let them laugh because I was already building something that would end their whole world. Every insult, every joke, every dismissive comment just added fuel to the fire. They thought they were motivating me to come crawling back to law school. Instead, they were motivating me to destroy everything they'd built. They had no idea what was coming. They'd mock my coding while I was literally building their replacement, talk about my future while I was designing theirs. Every family dinner just made me code harder. Then I got fired after 6 months when they caught me reading case files someone left out. I wasn't stealing secrets, just curious about how these deals worked. But apparently, literacy wasn't in my job description. The partner who fired me actually said, "We can't have janitors thinking they understand law." Perfect. Now I had even more time to code and even more motivation to burn it all down. They even called security on me, escorted me out like I was some kind of criminal. They made me leave my mop bucket and cart behind. Wouldn't even let me get my jacket from the break room, just marched me to the exit while lawyers watched from their offices, probably thinking, good riddance to the uppity janitor. So there I was, standing on the sidewalk with nothing but my pride, my cardboard lunchbox, and about 1,000 new reasons to make sure they never laughed at me again. But at that point, I didn't care anymore. I knew I could throw myself into whatever to achieve what I wanted. So I found another gig at a different firm, same deal, clean toilets. Empty trash, learn everything possible about their weaknesses. But now, I was smarter. I kept my head down, never got caught reading anything, just observed, listened, and remembered everything. I started carrying a tiny notebook, writing in my own shorthand code that looked like cleaning supply. Lists but actually contained legal strategies, common contract clauses, and workflow inefficiencies. It took me 5 years of mopping floors and writing code, 5 years of being the family punchline while secretly becoming their worst nightmare. 5 years of 12-hour shifts, followed by 6 hours of coding, sleeping, 4 hours a night, living on ramen and stolen office snacks. I started simple, built a program that could scan mountains of legal files in seconds. The first version was hot garbage, search for liability, and it'd spit out recipes for chicken soup. Whatever. Failure is just free education. After a few brutal months and way too many all-nighters on a duct tape laptop, I cracked it. Lawyers don't search for words, they search for concepts. I built my own system around that idea, fueled by court records and office trash I borrowed during night shifts. By year 3, I had a working platform and a fake company, complete, with a CEO who didn't exist and employees with stock photo smiles. Turns out, building a company teaches you way more about law than law school ever did. The first sale was to some overworked personal injury guy in a strip mall. The poor dude looked half dead. My software gave him his life back, and he thanked me with a Christmas card that said, "You saved my marriage." That's when I knew I was onto something real. I started pricing it at $500 a month. The early guys who believed in me, I gave them lifetime deals. They became my biggest cheerleaders, telling every lawyer they knew about this miracle software that gave them their lives back. Word got out fast. Suddenly, the little guys were outmaneuvering the big firms. Every win was another slap to the face of the legal world my family worshipped. And the best part? They had no idea the janitor they'd kicked to the curb was the one flipping the entire industry on its head. Meanwhile, family dinners continued. Same dining room where they'd cut me off, same table where they decided I was worthless. Now I had dozens of lawyers singing my praises in my inbox. But here I was, still the family punchline. The contrast was suffocating. Still pretending to be Mark Zuckerberg? Michael asked one Sunday. When are you going to be realistic about your future? Mom added. Dad just shook his head. My son, the janitor, thinks he's revolutionizing law while cleaning toilets. It would be funny if it wasn't so sad. They had no idea I was already making 6 figures in licensing fees that major firms were calling, begging for demos, that I owned 17 patents with more pending. My bank account had more zeros than theirs, but I still showed up in my beat-up Honda, still wore the same old clothes, let them think I was pathetic. They thought my silence meant defeat, but really, I just didn't want to waste words on people who'd already decided who I was. You're awfully quiet tonight, Mom observed, like she was concerned. Everything okay with work? Yeah, fine, I said, passing the potatoes. He's probably tired from mopping, Ellen suggested. Physical labor is exhausting. At least he's consistent, Dad chimed in. Same job, same car, same situation. Some people just plateau early, but they didn't know I wouldn't stay silent forever while they mocked me at dinner. I was playing chess while they played checkers. I started buying assets through shell companies. The strategy was simple: control everything they needed to function. Behind the scenes, I started stacking assets through shell companies. Quiet moves, boring. Paperwork, the kind of stuff they thought only real professionals understood. One of the first wins was buying the building where Dad's firm rented space. Nothing flashy, just a quiet little commercial LLC with a boring name nobody would notice. After that, I picked up a couple more properties, enough to make sure if a law firm needed an office downtown, odds were good they were paying rent to the janitor they used to laugh at. I kept things simple. No crazy shell games, no offshore nonsense, just slow, boring real estate stacking while they weren't paying attention. Meanwhile, I bought out the cleaning company I used to work for. Now I had keys to every big law firm in the city and a front row seat to all the dysfunction. Lawyers would discuss million-dollar deals 5 feet away from me while I changed the trash, like I was furniture. By year 4, my legal platform was running half the firms in the state, including Dad's. They'd brag about some genius new software in meetings and then mock my computer phase over family dinners like it was some sad little hobby. The irony could have powered a small city. And just when I thought the show couldn't get any better, the universe handed me front row seats. Dad's retirement party, the big one. Fancy hotel, 200 guests, black tie mandatory, every judge he'd ever argued. Before, every partner he'd ever worked with, every client who'd made him rich. This was his victory lap, 40 years of grinding, all leading to this moment. The invitation came on thick cardstock, gold embossed, more expensive than my weekly groceries. I stared at it, thinking about all the family dinners, all the jokes, all the dismissive comments. Part of me didn't want to go, but I had to see this through. I had to be there for his big moment because I already knew would be his last. I showed up in my only suit, the one I wore to funerals. Thought maybe he'd throw me a bone on his big night. Share some wisdom, say something kind, acknowledge that I existed as something more than a disappointment. I thought maybe, on this night of celebration, he'd find one nice thing to say about his youngest son. The ballroom was everything you'd expect. During cocktail hour, I overheard fragments of conversation, Bob's youngest. Oh, he's taken a different path. I heard he works in maintenance. Such a shame with those genetics. 4 out of 5 isn't bad. At least he is employed. Maybe he's happy. Doubt it. Have you seen where he lives? Mom floated around the room in a designer gown. She saw me once, gave that pained smile she reserved for family embarrassments, then moved on to greet a Supreme Court clerk. When dinner ended, Dad took the microphone for his speech, started with the usual platitudes, thanking his partners, praising Mom, talking about his journey from nothing to success. The American dream personified, at least in his telling. I've had an amazing career, he said. Built a successful practice, married a federal judge, raised 4 accomplished lawyers. He paused, surveying the room, making eye contact with each of my siblings, smile getting wider. People say you can't bat 1,000. 4 out of 5 children becoming lawyers isn't bad. Sometimes I wonder if we should get a DNA test for that 5th one. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All I could hear was scattered laughter, some people looking uncomfortable, but most chuckling along. But hey, someone has to clean up after lawyers, right? At least my youngest found his calling with a mop. They laughed hard, and I stood there like an idiot while my stomach twisted into a knot so tight it could have anchored a battleship. My siblings were dying. James was slapping the table. Michael gave a standing ovation. Ellen was wiping tears. Mom hid her smile like she always did when Dad publicly humiliated me. 200 successful people laughing at the janitor, the failed son, the family. Shame, the one who couldn't cut it. the one who chose mops over motions. I looked around that room, memorized every laughing face, every partner who'd walked past me like I was furniture, every judge who dismissed me as nobody, every client who'd treated me like dirt, all of them cackling at Dad's killer punchline. That was it. I left without a word, quietly slipped out while they were still laughing, drove home in my beat-up car, sat in my apartment, and stared at my laptop screen. 20 years of dismissal and mockery crystallized into pure, focused rage. Time to burn it all down. I sent the email at 3 a.m. My fingers were steady on the keyboard, no hesitation. Every license terminated in 30 days. The message was short, due to strategic restructuring, all Phoenix. Legal platform licenses in your state will terminate in 30 days. This decision is final. No extensions or exceptions will be granted. Begin transitioning to alternative solutions immediately. I didn't bother dressing it up or softening the blow. No fake apologies, no PR spin. They'd made it clear years ago what they thought of me. I owed them exactly nothing. I sat back after hitting send, staring at the screen, knowing I just pulled the pin on the grenade. There was no taking it back, no second chances. The panic hit faster than a fire drill at a fireworks factory. Phones blowing up, lawyers running around like their ties were on fire. And me? I was chilling on my couch, eating gas station nachos. My phone started ringing by 3:15 in the morning. First, the night associates, still at their desks, then partners on the East Coast starting their day. By 6 in the morning, it was chaos. Emails flooded in, confusion, threats, pleas, offers to pay more. Law firms suddenly realized they'd built their entire practice around my platform. Without it, they were basically working with stone tablets, like taking away Google and making everyone use card catalogs. Dad's firm had their biggest deal ever lined up, his retirement crown jewel, some massive merger worth 9 figures, the kind of deal that makes careers, gets names on buildings. They'd been prepping for months, everything coordinated through my platform. Without it, they missed critical deadlines within the first week. Documents couldn't be processed fast enough. Research that took minutes now took days. The deal started falling apart by day 10. Dad's team couldn't process documents fast enough. The other side smelled blood and went for the kill. By day 15, his biggest client walked. 40 years of reputation gone in 2 weeks. Then my siblings crashed and burned right alongside him. The golden children who'd made me feel worthless for years, suddenly couldn't do their jobs. Missing deadlines, botching filings, losing cases to lawyers who made half their salary. My phone lit up with messages from their colleagues, all variations of, "What the hell is happening to the Morrisons?" Harvard boy missed a deadline that first-year associates don't miss. Miss International showed up to meetings at the wrong time. The star prosecutor started losing to public defenders. The patent queen filed documents that infringed on existing patents, rookie mistakes that cost millions. Watching it unfold felt strange. Part of me thought I'd feel pure joy, but there was something else mixed in, maybe pity. No, not quite, more like validation. All those years they'd acted like gods. Turned out they were just people dependent on good software. The whole state bar went into panic mode. Emergency meetings, desperate offers. They'd pay anything to get the platform back. 10 times the price, 20 times. Lawyers who'd never acknowledged my existence were suddenly blowing up my phone. That's when they found out the truth. I owned everything. The patents, their office buildings, even the company that cleaned their toilets. Every escape route they tried to take led back to me. The same family that cut me off for dropping out was now completely at my mercy. The irony wasn't lost on me or them. Of course they didn't stay silent. They tried everything to stop me, threw every legal trick in the book at me. Injunctions, restraining orders, lawsuits, all got tossed out of court. They even tried filing criminal complaints, but turns out ending a software contract isn't illegal. The Bar Association couldn't touch me since I wasn't a lawyer. I cranked up their office rent by 300%, canceled their cleaning contracts, cut off their IT support, all totally legal. They'd signed the contracts without reading them. Some firms tried switching to other platforms, but nothing worked with their old files, years of documents and formats only my system could read. They'd lose clients while trying to retrain everyone on new software. Most gave up after a few days. Dad's firm lost almost all their clients in 3 weeks. Big corporations don't stick around when you can't meet deadlines. His partners started bailing like rats from a sinking ship. 40 years of building that firm, and I destroyed it in less than a month after his retirement. The state bar tried organizing a boycott against my company. Cute, like ants declaring war on the kid with a magnifying glass. I owned everything they needed. They needed me. I didn't need them. And when the platform hit its peak, I made my move. Quietly sold it off to a private tech group for more money than I ever dreamed of back when. I was scrubbing toilets. Not billions, but enough to never have to answer to anyone again. Before signing, I added one small clause buried deep in the contracts: no law firm. Employing anyone with the Morrison name could ever license the system again, ever. The buyers didn't even blink. To them, it was just client risk management or whatever corporate jargon made them feel smart. Those last few days before the shutdown, absolute chaos. Partners who hadn't touched a keyboard in years were now typing their own motions at 2 a.m. Assistants were panicking, guys trying and failing to scrape together backups. Mom didn't last much longer on the bench. Turns out her sharp legal mind relied a lot more on fast research tools than anyone knew. Without it, her rulings fell apart, her workload backed up. I watched it happen from the sidelines, feeling nothing but justice. 6 months later, the family home went up for sale, the same house where they planned every one of our lives like a corporate roadmap, the same place where I sat through years of lectures about success and standards and being a disappointment. They sold it at a loss. Around that time, the calls started coming in. First, it was Michael, acting like he just wanted to catch up. Then Patricia, dropping hints about how families should stick together during hard times. Even Mom tried with stiff emails, pretending nothing ever happened. Dad was the last holdout, of course, too proud until the day he called. Voice raw, words forced, asking if we could meet, just to talk. Part of me wanted to hang up. Part of me wanted to drive over just to hear him say it to my face. But the smarter part of me knew better. You don't rebuild bridges that were never real to begin with. But I wasn't done. I bought their office building when it went into foreclosure, turned Dad's corner office into a meditation room, the conference room, where they'd mapped out my legal career into a coding classroom, the law library into a gaming lounge for the startups I fund. And funny enough, the last time we all met face to face, it wasn't in some grand dining room or fancy private club like the old days. Nope. We were packed into a noisy chain restaurant. Nobody could afford Mom's usual fancy places. Dad looked like he'd aged 20 years. Mom kept fidgeting with her off-the-rack clothes. My siblings just sat there, shell-shocked. "Why?" Dad finally asked. "We're family." "Family?" I said, grinning. "So why'd it hurt? You don't get to throw a kid into the ocean and cry when he learns to swim without you." "It was just a joke," Mom tried. "You meant every word." 20 years of making sure I knew I was the family failure, I said. They begged, apologized, made promises. Dad offered to take out ads retracting everything he'd said about me. Ellen actually cried. "Too late," I said, getting up. "You had 20 years to treat me like family. You chose mockery instead." "Please," Dad's voice cracked. "I'm 72. I can't start over." "Funny, Dad. I had to start over at 22 with nothing while you all laughed. Worked out pretty well for me. I left them with a check. Petty? Sure. Worth it? Absolutely." Word spread fast. The Morrison dynasty, brought down by their janitor's son. Law firms that used to mock me suddenly wanted to be friends. My story became legend in tech circles. Now Dad's a public defender making $50,000 a year. The man who used to bill $500 an hour represents drunk drivers and shoplifters. Mom teaches at a community college, explaining basic legal concepts to kids who don't care. James works at a strip mall firm doing personal injury cases, lost his house, now rents an apartment. His fancy car and trophy wife are long gone. Patricia processes visa applications for a nonprofit, the woman who negotiated billion-dollar international deals, now helps people fill out forms for $35,000 a year. Michael's a public defender. Like Dad, the hotshot prosecutor who never lost now can't win. Ellen does temp work reading through documents for $20 an hour. The IP specialist who worked with tech giants can't afford a decent laptop. They all make less than I did as a janitor. Meanwhile, I kept things simple, nice house, but nothing crazy, regular car, just newer. I donated hundreds of millions to help kids escape family pressure, fund coding boot camps, support people choosing their own paths. My cleaning company still runs, but differently. Living wages, benefits, stock options for every janitor. Some became millionaires when we went public. The night shift, the people everyone looks down on, they're now shareholders in a billion-dollar company. My platform runs most of the country's legal industry, just not in our state. The Morrison blacklist is permanent. Sometimes big firms beg for exceptions, offer stupid money, promise to treat my family better. The answer's always no. The other day, Ellen emailed me, "I'm sorry, you were right about everything. I deleted it without responding." Some bridges you don't rebuild. Dad also tried reaching out through a friend, wanted to talk, find closure, mentioned health issues, not having many years left. The same man who cut me off without blinking now wants mercy he never showed. I sent back 2 words, "No thanks." The thing is, this wasn't about revenge. It was about respect, about being seen as a person. Instead of a disappointment, about proving there's more than one path to success. 5 kids in the Morrison family, 4 followed the script, became exactly what their parents wanted. 1 made his own way, built something revolutionary, changed an entire industry. Guess which one actually succeeded? My nieces and nephews sometimes ask for advice about standing up to family pressure. I tell them, your life, your choice. Don't let anyone else's vision limit you. The Morrison name still means something in legal circles, just not what it used to. Now it's a warning. Be careful who you mock. The person you dismiss today might own your tomorrow. Sometimes I code late at night, just like the old days, not because I have to, but because I love it. The same passion they tried to kill, the same dreams they mocked. Turns out those dreams led everywhere. Dad's retirement speech still echoes. Someone has to clean up after lawyers, right? He was more right than he knew. I cleaned up their entire profession, just not with a mop. 5 kids, 4 lawyers, 1 billionaire. The lawyers can't make rent. The billionaire's changing the world. Not bad for a dropout with a mop bucket and a dream. But now I'm happy. Actually happy. Found my purpose, built something meaningful, helped thousands find their own paths. While they chased prestige and money, I chased passion and impact. Funny how that works out. They wanted me to be like them. Thank God I chose to be myself instead. The janitor who cleaned up after lawyers. The dropout who revolutionized an industry. The failure who succeeded beyond measure. The disappointment who exceeded every expectation. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well and letting success speak for itself. 5 kids in the Morrison family tree. Only 1 grew tall enough to see beyond it. That's all that matters.